Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So I've been invited here today to talk about social media and Sikhi, and hopefully we can like not have this just me talking for the entire time, but I prefer if like we do get like a discussion going. So anybody that wants to chime in, just like start. And if you have any questions or if you have any comments or anything, just talk. Like I would actually prefer that. So let's start with like who I am and why I think I was asked to do this. So my name is Eakamjit Singh, and a lot of you may know me from Brampton Grand. So that's like an Instagram page I used to make comedy skits on, and I say used to, so I'll get into that later too. And so social media and Sikhi go hand in hand for me personally on my like journey of Sikhi. So and it's tied in with like the Brampton Grand account and art and everything. And so hopefully by the end of this talk, we can understand like how social media and art and like your expression is tied in with your Sikhi in today's modern era. So I never used to be a Gursikh. Like I grew up as just like a kid with a Juda. Didn't really like know too much about Sikhi or anything. And then when I went to university, I cut my hair and I started like smoking, drinking, and just really like I didn't really like think of Sikhi ever, right? I was just really just off that path. But like during that time when I was like my first 2 years in social, I mean my first 2 years of university was when I was like very just drinking, smoking all the time, just again, yeah, not worrying about like anything too deep or philosophical. I was just like quote unquote living life, YOLO, that kind of stuff, right? And so during that time, I was a heavy social media user, but in like not how I am now. But back then, it was like more like, oh, let me post these pictures, get these likes, whatever. Follow all these people I just met, see what they're doing every day, just staying like up to date with other people's lives and stuff. And so come around to third year, I discovered the Basic Sikhi YouTube account, and that is like a complete 180 for me. So I spent that entire year like off social media, off like all the internet, like all like the stuff that I used to do before, like Twitter, Instagram, and all that stuff. I just like stopped that. I stopped talking to a lot of my friends, and I just wanted to like figure out who am I. So during that 1 year, I just spent it like just researching more Sikhi, trying to do pot, trying to meditate, trying to like keep my life as minimal as possible. And I think that was a very transformative year because after that, um, I stopped. I would say I stopped like smoking. I stopped drinking, but I was still not a Gursikh. I was still like cut my hair and stuff. But I slowly came back to that path of Sikhi. And then come late 2017, me and my buddy, we were just sitting around talking about how like the Punjabi comedy game really fell off, right? Like Just Rain and AK used to be like the top guys, and now like nobody's making these kinds of videos anymore. So we decided to do it, and then that was like late 2017 when we were decided to make like like videos and stuff. We were originally gonna make like those old school Japanese samurai movies, but like that never happened because we couldn't like just figure out how to do it. So we're just like, yo, next best thing is the Punjabi comedy scene. And so 2018 January, we put out our first video. And when I first started the making videos for Brampton Grand, I was a mona, right? I used to just wear a hat, have a little man bun going, but I was in the phase of keeping my hair. So as I made the videos, it required me to understand like what is artistic expression. So in order to understand artistic expression, you got to like dig deep and figure out what are the things on your mind that you want to express, that you want to talk about. And so when like when I would see something happening in a gurdwara, or when I would see something happen in like a Sikh, in like the Sikh world, I didn't feel like I was qualified to talk about it because I did not physically look like a Sikh, right? So over time, that becomes kind of it becomes kind of daunting because you see all these issues in the panth, but it's like, man, I'm not anybody who's able to talk about it, right? Like I'm not a Gursikh, I'm not Amritari, I'm not like I don't do Nitadam, nothing. Why am I gonna talk about it? And why are people gonna take what I say seriously? about this. So I had to like change. So around June 2018, I started tying a pug because I felt like, you know what, it's now or never for this, right? Like I have all these deep emotions of like trying to, like I want to express all these like I want to make all these videos about the Gurdwara, about like Sikhi and stuff. But if I don't look like a Sikh, it's not gonna do anything. And maybe that was the initial push. Maybe it was something else, like the initial spark to keep a pug. But all these things accumulated into the reason I did start tying a pug. And so I started tying a pug in June, and then September I just took Amrit. I was just like, you know what, this is it. I just got to do it. And so ever since I took Amrit, my like artistic expression changed a lot too. I started thinking more about like, you know, what kind of message can we get across in these videos now? Like I have a little following going. What's the best I can do with this? So I started making videos that are related to Gurdwara comedy as well. And I like if I'd made these kinds of videos when I was a Monna, I would have probably got more hate. But because I was a Gursik, it was it was like it was like passable, like allowable. And I know it's like, oh, this sounds very like, oh, why oh, you kept your hair to make videos and stuff. It's like, no, it's like it's the opposite. It's like Amrit brought this into my life. Like I can make these Gurdwara kind of videos. So I made videos like talking about langar, talking about the committee members that run the Gurdwara and stuff. Like they just little banter, right? And so from that, it was like I forgot where I was going with this. Where should
You're talking about Gurdwara.
Yeah, so Gurdwara. Yeah, I'm sorry, I go very off track all the time. So yeah, we're talking about art and Sikh related art and stuff. And so making these kinds of Gurdwara videos, it like pushed me further into thinking like, yo, these are actually serious problems that we have, right? It all started as comedy, but then it's like, you know what? If these kinds of committee members are running the Gurdwara, what's it gonna look like in 20 years when these men die off and somebody else has to take their spot? Who is gonna be the next person to take this spot, right? So, and this is where like social media comes in, because on social media everywhere I see people talking about Gurdwara need this, Gurdwara need that, Gurdwara need this, Gurdwara need that. But in real life, there's nobody at the Gurdwara, right? Gurdwara is, for most of the majority of the day, it's just empty, right? Maybe on the weekend there's a wedding or some sort of event, or like Sunday Sikhs show up, but other than that, it's empty. So these kinds of thoughts started coming into my mind. So as I'm making more and more videos, more and more serious thoughts are coming. And so recently, like about in late June, July, I decided like, yo, I can't make these videos anymore. It's so just taxing on my mind. It's like the issues that I think are serious, if I keep brushing them off as a comedy skit, I'm gonna think that, oh, I accomplished something, I raised awareness, this, that. But in reality, I just made a little video for fun and just put that out there. So I think that was one of the reasons why I had to stop making videos, because I want to like not just leave my Sikhi online on social media. I need to get it off social media and get something going in real life. So I have some stuff written in a book here. I'm just gonna look at some talking points of mine. So yeah, so with that, like talking about Sikhi and social media and making them art that reflects problems in the community, we can start relating how social media is connected with Sikhi, right? So like I'm just gonna readjust here. I have a pretty uncomfortable seat. And so if we talk about social media, like what is social media, right? At its core, it's just advertising space, right? Every social media like platform has been infiltrated by this influencer culture. So people are just like posting their stuff, whatever company sponsored them, and they just want to show that product in the video, this, that. And so it's like it's just turning into ad space, right? So but like it's still but we can utilize that as a Sikh, right? So if social media is just ad space, and there is a lot of like people on social media all the time, right? So what we can do is, if we are doing like Sikh related work, it's the perfect place to advertise it is on social media, right? And so let's look at like Twitter, for example. Twitter is a great place to raise awareness in a short amount of time. Like if we look at the Free Juggy campaign, so I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but like I think around July 27th was Jaggi's like 1,000 days in prison in India, and people did like a social media campaign, right, to raise awareness, and they got the hashtag trending in like a bunch of countries in like Canada, America, UK. They got that trending for a day, and it was a big accomplishment on social media. At that time, I was taking a Twitter break, so I had no idea this was going on, right? So it's like you're on social media and you're tweeting every day, free juggy, free juggy, free juggy, free this, free that. Yes, you're raising awareness, but off social media, there's no noise whatsoever. Like it's nowhere. And if we look at a parallel movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, they're doing it well. They're on social media raising awareness, but off social media too, they are flooding the streets and protesting, right? And so if you look at the social media content, it's not just a tweet about like a nice little graphic design with 1,000 days written on it. It's not just that. It's like videos of people at these protests and stuff, right? So showing people in action, which inspires more people to take action. So where we as a Panth are failing is we're just sticking to social media for our action. Like even today, everybody's posting, "Oh, India did this, India did that, all these atrocities, all this that." Like if we look at the '80s, after '84, did Singhs just sit around in their parents talking about, "Oh, did Singhs just sit around in their parents talking about, oh, look at what happened at Darbar Sahib, oh, such a shame, they should have, somebody needs to do something, somebody should do this, somebody should do that." They didn't do that. They took action, right? They picked up arms, they started armed struggle, they created these jathe, everything. Like we could go into that, that's like a different topic. But if we look at them for our inspiration, it's that these people took action. They're people of action. So they identified what the problem was and took action. And the action they took is like, again, we are inspired from it now. It's like me personally, like 2 years down the line, I'm not gonna look at, oh, Free Jaggi now was trending and be so inspired by it. But it's like that doesn't inspire us. But like, why are we able to get inspired by like somebody like Baba Deep Singh, who gave his Shahidi almost 300 years ago, and it still resonates with everyone because he took action, right? So it's that's where I see where we're failing as a Panth. But again, like I don't want to completely bash social media. Like this discussion right now couldn't have been organized without social media. So social media, there are a lot of pros and a lot of cons. And unfortunately, like the way I see it headed is that if we just stick to online, vichara and stuff like that, we're not gonna get that far. Because I've been less than 2 years. Like I've been Amritari now, and in the Toronto area, I feel like I've met almost every like youth Amritari already, and like it's not many of us, right? Online, it seems like, oh, there's so many Punjabi people that want to take action, that are like, oh, we want to become activists. Like, look, we want to raise awareness for these issues. But in real life, it's like nobody cares, right? Nobody really wants to talk about Juggy. Nobody wants to sit around with their friends talking about Juggy, talking about the problems, right? It's very few people, if any, that are actually doing this kind of stuff. So that's where I think some of the pros and cons of social media are. So if anybody wants to add anything, feel free to do that right now. Anybody wants to any questions or anything? I know I kind of just ranted for a bit, and I may have confused a lot of you. All right, so let's move on then.
Just wanted to say, yes, about your point about it's mainly on social media. Also through social media, they have organised some protests over the years in the UK and London. So they've organised one for next Wednesday for Jagdar Singh Johal as well. Sikh UK.
Okay. Yeah. So see, in UK, they're utilizing social media better than. So if they're able to mobilize people and protest and stuff like in Canada, that just doesn't happen. Like it's very rare. Like maybe 20 people show up to a protest if there ever is one. So shout out to the UK. You guys are doing it better than us. Yeah, so let's just go through some of the social media platforms and what I've noticed about them when it comes to Sikhi. So let's start with Twitter. So Twitter is a mess, right? I think we all know that. Twitter is like it's a vichar like a battleground. That's where vichar goes to die, right? Like you can't have healthy discussion on Twitter. So, but what Twitter is good for is again raising awareness and promoting like any campaigns and stuff. And I've noticed like a lot of Twitter accounts, they do post like a lot of good history and Gurbani Vichara and stuff like that. So you can learn a lot from Twitter. But one of the worst things about Twitter is like public debates that happen in comments and stuff, right? It's what I've noticed is like it turns into just a belittling contest. Like, oh, what's something clever I can say that's gonna throw the other person off and make me get more likes and retweets and stuff, and it just goes back and forth like that, and nobody's mind ever changes in like these kinds of conversations. Like like ever since the inception of like the internet, there's been trolls and there's been forums where people debate and comment, but how rare is it that somebody's mind actually changes? And like it's just mostly just people going back and forth, just feeding their own egos, just fighting with each other over like things that like if we met in real life and discussed this kind of stuff, like half the stuff that people say online, they would not be saying that in real life. And right. So I think like again, so if we're talking about Twitter is good for awareness. Twitter is good for some sort of like history and like Gurbani and that kind of stuff. Like if anybody has any good Twitter accounts they want to shout out, feel free to do that. Like I know a good one is Mangla Charan, and the guy that runs it, his name is Javala Singh. He's like a researcher out in BC, and he does a lot of good like research on Gurbani, and he makes a lot of good YouTube videos and a lot of stuff that some
Podcast.
and yeah, he has the Suraj podcast too. Thank you. So the yeah, my point being is that like if we follow people who do post good quality content, it sparks an interest and what can like motivate you to go and do your own research on different kinds of topics. So the next one we're gonna talk about is Instagram, and Instagram is a personal favorite of mine because my career kind of got launched on Instagram. So Instagram is a great place for like artists to share their work. Whether you're like a painter, you make videos, you do music, whatever you do, Instagram provides you that
Environment.
not environment, the platform to share your work on and to create a following and to create like a little like not a little, like it can be like a you know what I mean, like a little following and a little group for your work. So Instagram is great for that. It's great for artists. Like if you have any sort of art that you do, any artistic expression, I highly recommend like yo, just make a fake Instagram account. You don't even have to show your face. Just start posting your art and watch. Like you're gonna get response. If you post consistently on Instagram, you will get a response, right? And so we as Sikhs, we can utilize that again, right? So if we have a lot of Sikh artists that are getting started in the community now, like in the last few years, I've seen so many like small time Sikh artists just emerge and they're just like running their own page. And these guys got like a couple thousand followers now. And so like over the last 2 years, like their pages have really grown. So don't underestimate the power of like consistent posting and staying true to your art, because like when you stay true to your art, you're going to be more inspired to post it and to create more art. And so and like on top of that, if you're anonymous on these posts, like you won't even like worry about, oh, what are people going to say about my art, and like these little insecurity factors that come into play. So and like we can easily like share posts on Instagram and stuff with other people, right? And so this is like a good thing about Instagram. So I'm gonna go on a little Instagram rant right now because So when I started on Instagram, it was back in January 2018, right? And we started posting videos. And again, it was just like I didn't know anybody in the Punjabi community in Brampton like that were artists or anything. And so it was just like a solo thing. Like we didn't really collab that much or did do or anything. We're just posting videos, getting them onto these meme pages and just growing our account, right? And so as the account grows and grows and grows, you meet the people online who inspired you to make videos or like inspire you to do work or like people pioneers in the Punjabi art community who, and now it's like when they recognize your work, you feel like, oh, like I'm finally getting somewhere. Like the person that inspired me to create work is now like commenting and liking and following me and talking to me in the chats and stuff like that, right? So it's like, wow, like, it's like a form of validation. But like the problem is like you've only known this person through their art and what they do online. Like I've met like a guy that was like a big inspiration to me. When I met him in real life, it was like, wow, like, this guy's like pretty washed up, right? Like, he was drunk, he was just like his mind was all over the place. I was just like, wow, like, I looked at this guy as such an inspiration, and now it's like he's not an inspiration at all. So don't, like, social media can lie to you, right? It's like don't put too much like hope in other people for like, oh, this guy is so good, this guy's solid, this guy's not, this guy's this guy's that. You can't really point your finger at somebody and like label them through social media, because you only know one like side of whatever they do, right? You don't know the whole person, you just know one aspect of their life, which again is just their art. And like art, like for me, it was like I was just judging him based on his art, right? And so if we, that's kind of like I don't know, it's a kind of a stretch, right? But it's like Jathebandi politics for me. That's what it's become like. Like we follow these people online thinking like, oh, this guy's good, man. He's gonna do something really good, and then we put all our support in people, and then when they let you down, your hope and your support die with that person. So it's like, yeah, that person is just a human too, right? Like we can't expect somebody to go so far and above and beyond. And like that's where I feel like it's kind of turning into like Jathe of its own. We just become fans of these other Gorsiks online and expect them to do so much, right? We become their followers and stuff like that. It's kind of becoming, it's like a social media Jatha that's kind of being formed, the way I see it. So like my sister's sitting here with me right now, and she's just like laughing and smirking, so it's kind of like making me laugh too. And so what the way I see it with like social media and like this kind of like following people is that Guru Sahib didn't create Sikhs to be followers, right? We're supposed, like, each individual person is supposed to be a Sawa Lakh unit on their own, right? So Sawa Lakh is 125,000. So you as an individual should have the power of 125,000 people. That's the kind of mentality that we should be running with, right? And so if we have a group of people and everybody has that Sawa Lakh mentality, we're not going to be relying on somebody else to lead us, right? We're going to be our own leader. And I think that's where social media is failing us, because social media is creating that division of like, oh, influencers and followers, right? Oh, look, this is the influencer, this is how many followers they have. This is the person, this is how many followers they have. And like me personally, coming from that kind of environment, when I reach like milestone followers, like whether it be 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and then we peaked around 30,000. And so it's like with every milestone you reach, it feeds your ego, right? Like, it's like, yo, I got this many followers, I got this many followers, I got this many followers. And yeah, sorry. And so again, it's just feeding your ego, and it's like creating this like false sense of a community online. I felt like, yo, we're 30,000 strong on Brampton Grand, but in reality, we're not, right? It's like a lot of people that follow you, they're just casuals. They're just following you for your art, or again, it's just like they just clicked follow just to see what you do, right? So it it creates this like false sense of like there's so many more people in the community than there actually are. So when it comes back to like we see people with so it's like if you see somebody and they have like 50,000 followers, you think like, yo, this person has a lot of influence, right? But in reality, most of their followers don't really care, right, too much about their personal life. They're just watching them for like the whatever music or art that they create, and that's it. They won't go beyond that. So I think that part of social media creates this like false sense again of a it creates these like quote unquote these jathedars for these different communities, right? And so we just expect these guys to be doing things. Like just because somebody's an artist doesn't mean they have to be political all the time, right? And when they don't get political, we start going like, oh, look at this guy, he built his career off the back of this community, or she built her career off the back of the Punjabi community, and now she does not talk about the Indian government doing this on today is the Independence Day, and this person did not tweet, oh, India's atrocities that they've done in this, that. Why do we expect them to do that, right? That's creating that follower mindset in our heads that like, yo, I'm not capable of doing anything because I don't have any followers. That's a complete lie, right? If we look at like what I'm gonna say is one of the greatest Gursikhs of our time, right? Like is Bhai Jagraj Singh. This guy he started Basic Sikhi just by posting videos on YouTube, right? So like I remember him talking, he's like, yo, before he started Basics, he already had a video recorded and he was about to post it. And then he just asked one of his coworkers, he's just like, yo, what do you think of this idea of me making sick videos on YouTube and posting them? And his coworker was kind of discouraging of him, right? If he had listened to him, he probably wouldn't have posted it, right? But again, he didn't care. He ran with that Savalak mentality, right? It's just like, yo, you know what? This needs to be done. I can do it. I will do it, right? So that's where that ties in with the with like I don't like with the follower mentality. It's like we need to grow out of that. Yes, we follow people for their content, but we shouldn't follow people to like expect them to do more or expect people to do something. You could follow accounts all day, like that's what social media is created for. You follow the accounts that interest you, but that doesn't mean that those people are expected to do anything, right? So that's where again like just tying in on that fact again, that like our hopes and dreams, they die with the people when they don't live up to our expectations. So you can't put your expectations in anyone as a Sikh on social media. It's like especially in these times now, like everybody, how I was mentioning how people on social media are most likely not the same person offline. So if somebody is being painted as such a great like Sikh artist online, like I don't know, like if you meet them offline, you like you might be disappointed, right? So these are the two main social media platforms that I see being used today by Sikhs, right? I wouldn't really count SoundCloud as social media, but it is a great place to post your art as a Sikh. Like I know this one Singh, he's doing a kirtan, like Puratan kirtan uploads. Like so he converts tapes and he just uploads them. If anybody wants to check it out, it's called Sikh Vibes. And so again, so he's just doing like what he's capable of doing. So if in his power he is able to get access to all this like Puratan Kirtan, all these old recordings, and he's able to convert them to MP3 files and upload them, like yo, he's doing his seva, right? That's what he's doing. And like a new trend that I've seen and I really enjoy is these like remix tracks that people post. So they'll take like a snippet of katha and throw like a trap beat under it, and it's like it's really cool, especially to like bump in your car, right? And so the last one I wanted to talk about was YouTube. And YouTube, again, I don't really consider it social media. It's more of just a upload platform in my opinion. And so YouTube is great. Like you could post, it's a great resource to learn, right? Even as like as a Sikh, we should be learning katha, santya, all this stuff, right? And especially now with the COVID, it's really hard to do that. But on YouTube, you could find everything. Like all you got to do is you got to be your own, you got to crack the whip on your own ass, right? So you don't have like a teacher there who's gonna force you to read Gurmani and force you to say this line 25 times. If you really have that will and you have that like, yo, I need to learn Santya, then you need to like discipline yourself and learn it. And so I think that's a I think that's like a great way to build discipline, is if you try to learn katha, if you try to listen to katha, try to learn history, and try to learn Santya and Bani on your own, you're gonna develop like that stronger mindset. So again, I want to like encourage anybody to just chime in at any time, and we'll see if anybody has anything to add to that. Anybody disagrees, agrees. Like, let's-
Just one thing. Simarjeet Singh had a question in the question box section. He asks, how do you think that the Canadian Sikh community can become better at being more connected, organizing events and organizing protests, etc.? And he says it seems that the UK Sikhs are better at coming together and raising awareness, while us Canadians seem to be more divided. So, can you give your thoughts on that?
yeah,
Or if
100%.
anyone else has their thoughts, they can feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Singh was saying about the UK Singhs are way more organized. Like every time I meet UK Singhs here, they're way more open and more welcoming than like a lot of we are here. It's like they have more confidence. They have more of that social kind of personalities to them.
I guess you can say because also more generations are there. They've been there a longer time.
Okay, yeah. So my sister's saying that like the more generation, like they are at their like third generation and stuff. So I don't really know how that is gonna.
No, like it's a more sense of like belonging because there's more things to like connect on, like bases. Like there's not that big of a gap like between our generation, our parents' generation, different backgrounds.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
they're like everyone's on the same page because they all grew up in the same atmosphere,
Okay.
environment.
Yeah. So I think like yeah. So with that like so with like what I've noticed is like yeah, so again with like all the people that I met from UK, they're like, yo, their Gurdwara have weekly programs, a lot of them. They do a lot of camps. They know the Sangit that lives in their area, right? Like we here in Canada, I don't know like my neighbor's name, right? I don't know all the Gursikhs in my area. I don't know who is living down the street. I don't know what kind of person they are. So I think where we could start with getting the Canadian Sikhs more organized is we just get to know each other better, right? We just like organize events in your community, get all the Sikhs to come out, meet the people you don't know, get to know them, get like create that environment of Sangat. Because Sangat, like Sangat is such an important thing. We just think Sangat is like we just get like a ranswai, like that's the typical definition of what Sangat has become for me. It's like, oh, you just meet up, you do kirtan, then you go home, right? But Sangat is more than that, right? Sangat is like the people that it's the Gursikhs that inspire you. It's the all the friends that you keep around you. And if we're making new friends, or if we're getting to know all the Gursikhs in our area, and we're getting to like understand what people's strengths are, what people's weaknesses are, we can start getting people caught up on the same page in real life. Online, everybody is already aware of all the issues that are happening. We all know, but in real life, it's hard to like understand. Like, yo, this person has the leadership qualities. This person is a good public speaker. This person is good at video work. This person is good at this, that, this, that. We could start assigning projects and tasks to people, right? Building trust, doing those team building exercises, and slowly over time, we can create that kind of UK atmosphere in Canada. Because I've noticed like in Canada, when you're walking down the street and you pass somebody who's also a Punjabi Sikh, there's so many of us in Brampton that we're just desensitized to it, right? We don't even say hi to them, nothing. We don't say fateh, nothing, right? So one thing that I met from the UK, he thought that was so weird, right? He went to a restaurant here and he said fateh to a guy, and the guy like awkwardly said it back. He's like, yo, in UK, we're just saying fateh, we're just saying hello to everybody that's just walking by. So I think we need to create that kind of environment where we are comfortable talking with our own people, because we are not really that comfortable, like myself included. When I meet like new Gursikhs, people that I don't know before, I get all like my insecurity mode turns on, right? It's like, okay, so what's this guy gonna think of me? How do I act neutral? I don't want to be judged to this, that. But I think we have to get past that. We have to get past the fear of being judged by our other like Gursikhs in our community. We got to get past that. Like I know it's like what I've noticed is Sikhi can be cringy at times, right? People think that like, oh, if I become myself included, right? It's like, oh, if I start doing all these like pracharik things, if I try to promote like Naam Simran at Gurdwara, it's kind of like, yo, who's this guy trying to be like? Why am I trying to be like a Baba? Why am I trying to be like a pracharik, right? And a lot of people think like that. So we got to get out of that mindset. We got to understand that, like, yo, like, if we look at all the things of the past and stuff, they had that idea of Sangat. They see another Sikh, it's like, that's my brother, that's my sister. And that's what the Khalsa like ideology again is. It's like, like we should be that comfortable meeting other Gursikhs, talking with other Gursikhs, rallying up other Gursikhs like they are our family, because that's what it is. The Panth is one big family. And so until we don't look at it like that, I don't think that we're gonna get that kind of unity again. So if anybody wants to chime in.
I mean, there's a UK saying in here. Maybe
Oh yeah. Saying from the UK. What do you think about that?
So you talking about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You were saying about you didn't have like these protests and stuff in Canada. Do you like at the like Nagar Kirtans? You have like stalls, people selling T-shirts with like Khalistan on it, or have our Shaheeds on it, or CDs.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
So with the protest, it's like we do have protests, but youth barely show up to them. It's mostly just the older generation that goes to these protests.
I feel like it's this protest. They've had few protests in the past for Jagtar Singh. I think it's only mainly just because obviously the UK has had the most involvement. The UK can actually do something about it. So I don't think it's really like something that Canadians would do.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I don't see any other protests. The protests, there's a few protests organized by Sikh for Justice outside like the Indian Embassy. Apart from that, there's not much protests in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So to go from there, I'd like protesting and getting the Panth together, like on the same page and doing something. I think it's like, so again, what's if we tie into the theme of the talk with social media, we can get all these protests organized on social media. We could do like so much on social media, but if we don't trust the Bande showing up to these protests, if we don't understand who the Gursikhs in our community are, it's just that idea of trust is not going to be there, and we're not going to be able to go that far as a community. But like again, I'm not like that's the problem I see in Canada is that we don't really care that much offline. Online, everybody here loves to like tweet about Sikhi and stuff, but offline, it's like barely anybody. Like the numbers are so like different. Like online, you see like people that aren't even Sikhs, that are Punjabis, and they support all this stuff. Like, you know, like they want to raise awareness and everything. But offline, it's like a lot of even Punjabis that aren't Gursikhs that I meet, they just don't care, right? So it gives me that like that false sense of numbers, that like, or not even numbers, of like we like false sense of like that there are a lot of people who care, but in reality we can't really we don't really have that many people.
Just to chime in, Manveer had a comment to make, so I'm just gonna put him on speaker real quick.
Okay.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So just to reply to that question early on, why Canadians seem more divided. So I wrote in the question box, I think why people are so divided in Canada is because UK Sikhs have a closer collective conscience. Sikhs have been in the UK a lot longer than Sikhs have been in Canada. So they've had a longer time to develop a stronger community, especially with the ways that they've been discriminated through the whole ordeal of colonialization and when Sikhs moved to the UK. So they had a longer time building that collective conscience. And also in Canada, what I've noticed about different Sikh organizations is that they don't communicate. and they don't collaborate with each other. And I'm not sure why. And a lot of people do tend to have loyalties to the organization that they connect the most with. So that kind of creates like a divide there already. And a lot of people don't like mingling between organizations and going back and forth for some weird reason. And one other thing I've noticed, and this was pretty big during the height of the BLM movement, a post on Twitter that went viral, is that we've been institutionalized with this model minority complex, and anybody who kind of acts outside of this, they get labeled as a radical, this and that. And I always said that, you know, Punjabis are extremely racist towards black people, but we keep it, or like the Punjabi community keeps it really like on the low. And that's because we see them protesting, and our parents or whatever, they'll say, oh, don't go out and do that, see what they're doing, they're rioting. And it's because we've been told by our oppressors that we are the model minority. So if we kind of step out of that, we may feel as if we are becoming a bad model minority. So I think that's also why in Canada, when it comes to flooding the streets with just Punjabis, it gets pretty difficult because we have that model minority complex that's set in for quite a while now. That's just my thoughts.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I agree with like with what you were saying. Yeah, but especially when it comes to Sikh organizations that don't collab with each other, it's like they are creating that kind of Jatha mindset. Everybody has they have their allegiance towards their go-to organization, and they just stick with like whatever events that organization does, and that organization is happy with just like, you know, they have their regular customers, and they just fly with that. And again, when it comes to like why don't these organizations collab with each other, that comes down to leadership, right? Like who's running these organizations? These organizations have so much pull in our community, but we rarely know like who is like the person whose name is on the like the document as like the owner or the runner of this organization and stuff like that. So there that level of transparency is not clear. And as future like as when it comes to becoming like leaders in the panth, right, and we want to become leaders for the future generation, we have these ideas that we want to implement. These a lot of times organizations create that gatekeeper kind of complex, like, yo, outside of our organization, we don't really care about anybody, or it's like, if you have an idea, bring it to us, yeah, we'll see if it's a good idea or not, this that. It's kind of discouraging. People, a lot of like good ideas have probably been shot down because like the leaders of the organization don't have the time, or they don't have the same vision as the person who is proposing that idea. But if we started promoting that individual ideology, that like, yo, you can do something on your own, then all these ideas and all these people that want to implement change and stuff, if they just start working, like a new you could start changing the status quo. You could start changing what's like considered the norm. Like there's this like cool book written, I don't know, it's called like 7 Habits for success or something, and he has this concept called the circle of influence versus the circle of concern, right? So if you're concerned about a lot of things, that's a big circle, and you're worried about everything that's in that circle, but you're just a little dot in the center of the circle, and what you have influence over is whatever is in that dot. But as you start feeding that dot, as you start creating things within that dot's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and with that dot growing, your influence starts growing too. And so as soon not soon, like over time, eventually your influence will be as big, or like big enough to challenge the things that do concern you. So I think it's like like again, in this modern era with social media and everything, we want everything instantly. We are like attention spans have dropped. So if something doesn't happen within a week or something, we'll forget about it, right? We'll think like, yo, this is whatever, no, it's been a week, nothing's really happening. But it's like, yo, come on, man, we gotta like put years of work into this, right? If we want to be the change, if we want to be that pivotal shift in for the next generation, then we got to understand that like, yo, there's a lot of work that needs to go into like making the change. And you got to look as like, yo, what can you as an individual bring to the table, right? So when you start looking at your own skills, when you start looking at where are you lacking as an individual, what are your weaknesses, how can you improve them, how can you build your strengths, you're already influencing one person, yourself, right? So as you grow, somebody maybe in your family, like a little cousin or someone, this that may look at you as a role model. They see you changing, developing, growing as a human. It inspires them, and so on. A chain reaction forms. Sooner or later, like one person gets sparked who has so much josh and like so much like all this energy, and they just want to do something, and they're so inspired, and they just do it. Like anything can happen, right? But it all begins with like changing yourself and influencing yourself. So
Eakamjit Singh, Anmol Singh had a question. He asks, have you had any ideas to increase prachar online, such as websites, mobile apps, social media, etc.?
to be honest, not really. Like but prachar, if we're talking about like the traditional sense of prachar, where there's like we just talk about like how prachar is done in Gurdwara, right? Like katha and all that kind of stuff. I haven't really thought about it, but like we can do prachar in different forms, right? Like a Gursik was telling me once at Nar Kirtan, and this guy's kind of like a respected Singh in the community, and he was just like, bro, like with the comedy videos, that's a form of prachar too, right? You are raising a certain awareness that's entertaining. So I think if we apply that concept to like websites or whatever other social media that you were talking about, it's like, how can we get our message across by keeping it entertaining as well? Because again, we have to sort of shift and like cater to the current environment of the world right now. The world is like in this online, especially if we're talking about prachar online is like meme culture, right? It's like nobody is watching an hour-long video anymore unless it's like entertaining, unless it's like unless it's like entertaining, unless there's like something keeping them there to watch it. So I think if anybody is interested in starting these online prachar things, you got to ask yourself the questions like, how am I going to keep it entertaining? Because not everybody has the will to like sit through a katha with no visuals, and it's just an MP3 file which only the right stereo track works, so you're just listening through one side of the headphone. It's like that not everybody's going to be doing that. So you got to think like, yo, how can I if I am going to raise awareness, do want to do prachar, how do I make it entertaining? How do I keep their attention?
If you're talking about prachar, like having
My sister's just going to chime in a little.
So if I was just getting the point, like if you have the sarup, then anything becomes the prachar. Let's say if you're a doctor sitting at a health board meeting and you have the Sikhi sarup, that becomes prachar in itself, because you're going to stand out and you're representing the Sikh panth. Or if you're a pilot or a teacher or whatever your occupation may be, but when you're in that sarup, then that becomes prachar in itself.
Yeah, okay, I completely agree with that.
Just to sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Singh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So can one idea be a private company can take video interviews for individual sangat, and then that company can begin to take and discuss with other organizations where this person can fit for best result seva?
Yeah, I think that's like that's a really good idea. Like, so it's pretty much becoming like kind of like online interviews. Is that what you're trying to go for?
For sure. Like obviously the obvious organization for me would be Basics of Sikhi Canada, But if they just wanted to tell somebody, okay, here, this person, you take in charge of the interviews. That way we could get things rolling. I think that would be the best idea for somebody to just say, okay, I want to do that HR part. That can be me. Somebody just has to step in, I think. It could really be that easy.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think with that, it's like we create a online database of people and their skills. And when somebody is needed and they possess a certain skill, you could just delegate that task straight towards them.
Yeah, that database can either be public or private, but yeah, for sure. That's one
Yep.
step ahead of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think again, like if you were saying basis Sikh Canada or another organization, anybody that like again, we got to get these organizations to start moving as one, right? We all represent the same panth, but we just represent it through a different organization which is focused in a different area of doing prachar or organizing camps, whatever, right? That doesn't mean we can't have people that work across organizations. If somebody is good at whatever, like somebody's good at producing video content, I'm just going to use that as an example because that's my area, but if somebody's good at producing that, what's stopping them from going from organization to organization? And especially like as Singh was saying, if their data is available, like as their skills or this, that, anybody can reach out to them, offer them like we have this XYZ is required, you have skills that can fit XYZ, let's do it, let's get you to do this project and this, that.
Just to say, I think also people are could be scared. Like they could possess the skill, but they're too scared to approach the organization, or because there's not that sense of openness in between. They think the organization is close ended. You have to really be a part in there. So like some people may get scared to approach the person if they do possess a skill.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, but it's like organizations can come off as intimidating, but my experience is that like, all these organizations that I've talked to, and everybody's so welcoming, every organization. So I don't think there's that if anybody is like kind of hesitant, kind of afraid of like putting themselves out there for seva, it's like, don't be like, these organizations are they're like looking for people to do something.
I don't want to going back, but just quickly, because there was a point raised in the text for voice about the UK. It's a good point that was said about how close cities and towns are in the UK, because it's obviously smaller. So when they had a protest last year on the Independence Day in London, there was buses coming from Birmingham, where a lot of Sikhs live. Coming from Gravesend, where I live, there's a lot of Sikhs. So we have like one of the biggest Gurdwaras in Europe. There's like coaches that took people from the Gurdwaras in Birmingham, Coventry's another place where lots of Sikhs live, because it's only like about an hour drive into London. So you have all of these towns with a lot of Sikhs which are really close together. So I think that helps to organize it a lot more easily.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Like here in Canada, we have a large concentration in Toronto, a large concentration in Vancouver, and some spread out throughout the rest of the country, right? But literally, it's a 2-day, 3-day drive to go straight from here to Vancouver. It's like, so we can't have that level of mobilization that the UK has in Canada. So in Canada, if we do want to do like in-person awareness events, we got to think like, we gotta like think to our situation and our circumstances, right? It's like if we can't get as much bande as they can mobilize in UK, what can we do here that's different? So when we start thinking along these lines, we're gonna start we're gonna stumble upon the answer to these questions too. But first, to get these answers, we gotta ask ourselves these kinds of questions first. Like what are the problems the panth is facing? How in my community can we start answering these problems?
There's one thing that I found, like with obviously the lockdown, because they haven't been able to do these gutters and gutter waters. They've I'm really like amazed how many events have been organized on like Zoom video call. National Sikh Youth Federation, they've done a lot of talks on Zoom, talking with people, having discussions on there. There's a lot of people on there. I've joined a few about Bumfuck issues, about what's going on in India, stuff like that.
Yeah, this is what like this is the power of social media. We can organize these kinds of events and stuff like that. And again, because of the lockdown, most of the, if not all of the advertising for these events is done online. And so if we can start like online, I'm not like online is amazing. Like right now what we're doing, this kind of vichar, this is amazing. Like this is again, like if the lockdown was going on and there was no online, we wouldn't be able to do this. But when the lockdown lifts and we are back to our like 100% normal lives, and the gurdwara are back open and we're back at work, at school and everything, are we gonna do something different, or are we still just gonna stick to how we used to do, like a Sikh, how we used to organize, like especially here in Canada? Like, are we just gonna stick to how we used to do things on like before, like the whole community gets together during Nagar Kirtans, and after that there's basically it's nothing. It's like you meet all these people at Nagar Kirtans, this that, and then throughout the year everybody's just so busy in their lives. We don't really like meet up and discuss and do vichar in person, which is so very important, because right now online we're getting so much information is being shared. But imagine in person, we can like meet these people, we can like start putting faces to names, we can start figuring out everybody's skills and what everybody can again bring to the table.
Eakamjit Singh, I have a question. So obviously here in the West, we have the luxury of being able to go online and speak our minds, but our cousins over in India don't have that same luxury. Because I think this month or last month there was a Sikh man who was literally arrested for liking a Facebook post, and they're using like a vague definition of terrorism and stuff and public safety to like throw away people who are causing dissent and even speaking up about human rights issues. So oftentimes, like, we criticize the Sikhs in India for being not that active compared to us in the West. However, a lot of time they don't have the same luxuries and freedom of speech that we do. Is there a way that we can help them more, aside from obviously just doing like free or hashtags and stuff online? Because as you made the very valid point, then that oftentimes when we do these online campaigns, they don't translate to real life action, right? So do you have any suggestions, or could you speak more on that maybe a bit?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that like the answer to that is not a simple one. It's like we got to realize, like, why do the Sikhs in India face so much trouble, right? It's because again we have no political footing anywhere in the world, right? There is no like prominent Sikh leadership who's taken seriously on a global scale. So when it comes to like like the thing you mentioned, who got picked up just for liking something on Facebook and stuff like that, it's like in India they're able to do that because they know that they're not going to face any consequence. We can do all this stuff. They've gotten so comfortable to the point where they know are holding a UK citizen like for 3 years now, and they know that nothing's gonna happen, because they know like we are so politically weak as a panth right now that like anything in like our brothers in India, our sisters in India, we are kind of letting them down, because we always like point the finger at them, be like, oh, these guys are not doing anything, this that. It's like, what can they do, right, without going into an immediate like if they try to do something, they're immediately gonna get shut down. And we from the West, we're just pointing fingers at them. I think like we could use the opportunity we have here. Like, it's so easy to get into politics here. It's so easy to like easier compared to India, right? It's easier to start businesses and make money and like start funding our own campaigns, start funding our own projects and stuff here, getting our miri built back up, right? Because a lot of prachar just focuses on piri, on do simran, do your nitnem, do this, do that. But are we really? We need to start focusing on we need to start like raising more awareness for miri related prachar, right? Like, okay, how can you start a business? How can you make money? What is project management? How can you like design a project and then like assigned different tasks for different people and make sure that somebody's managing it correctly. Like if you guys like Jagraj Singh goes into like it takes this into like depth and in a very inspirational way in like a recent basics video where it's like the must watch thing. So I think we should like the answer has to be a political one as to like what like when it comes to people in India not being able to do something. It's because we in the West are letting them down. We're not utilizing our opportunity to its fullest to become stronger, to become more politically active, to have our PMCs, to have get 60 here, armed to get 60 here, tayar bar tayar, shastatari. We make sure we're doing our nitnem, we make sure we're living with the rahat that Guru Gobind Singh Ji assigned to us. Because once we start living that rahat, like all this stuff is going to automatically start to unfold, right? Khalsa Raj and everything, because once you start developing the Khalsa, that it's like that's where it leads to, right? It's like that's the end of it. Like suppose like you bought let's say you bought a fan, right? And you're trying to build it, but you're not looking at the instructions. Once you start reading the instructions, you're going to eventually build the fan. So if we follow the instructions set by our guru here, which it's much easier to do here than it is to do in India, we can build this fan, and this fan being called Saraj, right? So it's just a matter of like as an individual, are we focusing on on trying to become the best Khalsa we can? Because then once we as individuals start growing our skill set, we can start collaborating more with people who are on the same wavelengths as us, and we can start creating these kinds of systems that need to be created here. We can start getting our the Sikh like name on a world scale as something to not be taken lightly.
And that's what Bhai Jagraj Singh, he says this in that same video, and he says it doesn't take much for like the Indian Punjabi person to tire the star, keep their case, because it's already instilled in them. If they see that the West is strong and the Panth is united here, it won't take much to get them onto this path, because it's just there, it's instilled in them. So
yeah. And then building upon that, it's like the current ideology I've seen that we try to rerun with is like, oh, what are Sikhs in Canada doing? What are Sikhs in America doing? What are Sikhs in UK doing? We start putting like UK Sikhs, American Sikhs, Canadian Sikhs, Indian Sikhs, Malaysian Sikhs. It should be the other way around. It should be Sikhs in UK, Sikhs in Canada. Because once we start changing the wording, it starts changing how we perceive things. We'll look at it like Sikhs are spread across the world, not different countries host Sikhs. So we'll start looking at the Panth as a global thing, and how can we help people out in different parts of the globe, right? So yeah, so just to wrap it up, I think it comes down to like us keeping rahat, following what Guru Sahib says, becoming Shastatari, becoming politically active. And once we start growing in power that way, then we can start helping our brothers across the world, our sisters across the world who need our help.
All right, thank you so much, Eakamjit Singh. If anyone else has any thoughts or would like to chime in and say anything, feel free to, open mic right now.
Hey, bro, can I ask you why you making the videos? Because I honestly found them, they were really funny, and they're really, really good thing to watch at the end of the day to relax. So it'd be really interesting to know like why you stopped.
Yeah, so I stopped. It was like for me it's like a spiritual thing, right? Like I realized I reached a point in my doing Nitnem, doing Simran and everything, where it's like the only thing I could think of is like, yo, what's my next video gonna be? What's my next video gonna be? What's this? What's that? And so for a while I've been fighting with that in my head. It's like in my heart I wanted to quit, but my ego, my hankar was just like, yo, if you quit, you're gonna fall off, they're gonna forget about you, this that. And I think I finally reached a point where I'm like, you know what, I have to stop making videos because it's inhibiting my growth spiritually as a person, so I think that's more important to me currently, is to grow more spiritually, get more into Sikhi. And I felt like with the videos, it was just like dividing my attention. I couldn't really focus 100% onto Sikhi, onto my personal development and my personal growth, with because the stress and anxiety of making videos was always just lingering in my mind. So that's why I stopped making these videos.
That sounds perfectly reasonable, man. Sounds good.
But yeah, but don't worry. Like we have plans to start again in the future. It might not be the same content, but definitely we're gonna be releasing more content in the future. But I just need this little like break time right now.
Yeah, you gotta do you. That's perfectly reasonable. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. If anyone else has any thoughts or literally wants to make any statements or anything, feel free to. Eakamjit Singh, we really appreciated you coming on here. Thank you so much for the amazing talk. You know, it really means a lot for you to come out for this event.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really enjoyed like connecting with Sangat online. Like it's really hard to do this nowadays because of again the lockdown. But this was really fun. I really enjoyed discussion with people from around the world. Again, yeah, if anybody has literally anything to say, like come like we got 14 more minutes to kill.
So, now that you've had a bit of a break since your last video and stuff, have you noticed any change or growth in your own, bhakti or in your own spirituality?
Yeah, 100%. So with the break, I'm also taking a social media break right now. So I'm like heavily limiting my use of social media. Like Instagram, I do not use at all anymore. And Twitter, every now and then I just log in just to like see if any current like just to keep up to date with any Pantik issues that may be happening. But 100%, I like that chinta that I was talking about, that worry, that anxiety of like trying to make videos, trying to do this, trying to do that, that's gone. And with that being gone, it's allowed more peace into my mind. And so when I sit down and do Simran, when I read a Bani, I could read it with more attention. I could get a more out of it. So it's like it's really helped in the way of like my concentration, my focus has gone up. And like I'm learning like, yo, what are the important things in my life? And like what seemed like it was important, but it isn't. So it's like a really eye-opening thing for me.
That's amazing, man. Thanks for saying that. And do you think that as well? Like, is there a way for not just yourself, but or like advice you would give to other people other Sikhs, maybe even Amritaris who are on social media? Like, how can they find a balance, or how can they find a way where this janta or anxiety or this expectation that people are giving them, right? How can they find a way to not let that affect their own bhakti?
Yeah, so I think it's like we got to realize that social media is not as serious as we play it to be, right? So it's like a lot of times we get this pressure like, oh, if somebody's reposting things on their story, we feel obligated to repost it, right? Or like we just sit there, look through somebody's story, this, that, and it's just like just clutter going into our mind. I think like one of the things that I'm gonna do when I do get back onto social media is just to honestly use a burner account, just like account that's like a random username, random picture, whatever, just so I can follow all the accounts that inspire me, all these Sikh related accounts, all like anything that's has to do with like fitness, anything Sikhi, health related, whatever things I'm interested in. So I can browse social media anonymously. So that pressure of my presence being on social media is not there anymore. But I'm still not missing out. I'm still up to date with the world.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. I think that is the best way. I'm the same as well. I don't really have any social media accounts, but just things, and so I can follow, the accounts that I want to. And I think it is great because when you do get into this, this expectation, or when you get into the, the dopamine release of getting likes, that really it can affect especially if you're getting into doing, Nam, Simran, and Bhakti, it can affect that straight on. So yeah, so really thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, man. I think it like comes back to like the if we look at examples of like bhakti before action, like throughout history, like Gursikhs have like a time period where they do immense amount of bhakti. They read Bani, they do Simran, they raise their avasta, and they're gupt in the world's eyes during this time, right? But then when the time comes for their seva, they do it immensely. And I think that we can start practicing that too. If we just like go ghost for a bit, just focus on our own development, focus on doing Simran, focus on doing our Baniya, increasing everything that we can in the Sikhi path, I think eventually Guru Sahib will bakshish you with a seva that is fit for your skill set. And when you do the seva, it's gonna be like a perfectly done, and it's gonna have its lasting effects.
Look at basic Sikhi.
Yeah, like basic Sikhi again. My sister was just mentioning how Jagraj Singh, I think he took Amrit in like 2001 or 2002 or something like that, but he didn't start basics till like 2000, I don't even know, man, 12 or 13 or something. So like that's like around a 10 year period of him just learning and becoming a better Gursikh.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
100%. Sorry, go on.
So obviously, like there are like different types of social media creators and stuff, but what advice would you give to somebody who's in a position where they don't have the option to step away, where either they're a community leader or they're in a position where if they realistically step away, like realistically no one else is going to step up, like the project is going to go downhill or it's going to be dead, or if they're in like a position where they're like literally the main person running the show and they have to be online, they literally like it's like their informal job to do it. What advice would you give to somebody like that?
I would say treat it like a job, right? Like clock in, know that from this time to this time, it's your time for social media. And then so during whatever time period, you post what you need to post, you reply to whoever you need to reply to, and you start, and then you make the connections you need to. But when your time is up, you clock out, and that's it. You're done your job. I think that way you can stay, you can keep your sanity while you do it, right? It doesn't consume your life. It just becomes a time allocated to doing something. Like if as an example, I'm gonna use Eminem, right? So I heard this one story where Eminem was in the studio and Akon came. Akon's a singer, Eminem's a rapper, if anybody doesn't know. And then Akon came. He came around like 2 o'clock or whatever. And so Eminem was there from 9 a.m. And so when it was 5 p.m., Akon's like, okay, let's start recording. Eminem's like, no, I have to go home now, right? Akon's like, what? He's like, yeah, my day is done. Like, so what he does is that he comes in at 9 a.m. He comes to the studio. He does all his work. He writes his raps, does his recording and everything. And when 5 p.m. hits, he goes home. He doesn't think about it till the next day. And I think if somebody is in a position where they need to be online to run something, just look at it like it's like a job that you're doing. Like, don't let it consume your life. Like, don't be like waking up in the morning, checking it first thing, or going like before you go to sleep, the last thing in your hand is you scrolling through Instagram or something.
Yeah, thank you for those insightful points. Does anyone have anything else to say? Literally anything.
I was gonna first of all say that was a great question. Personally, because I'm the president of the SSA, I do that a lot where I for like several days on end I'll be scrolling through social media, getting like people to engage with our events and stuff like that. So I think that was a great insight. I just really wanted to offer a different perspective on kind of like your social media presence, not anyone's in specific, just in general. I hope I'm making sense, but one main thing that I've noticed over the last 3 years, specifically working with SSAs and different organizations, is that if you come across a resource that you think is very valid or very important to share around, and you cannot or don't have the time to promote an event or an organization yourself, have at least 5 Gursikhs or 5 people that you know that have a broader network on kind of like speed dial, I guess, where you can then share those resources to, so they can then share it to the appropriate channels. I think speaking from more of an academic perspective, when there's new dissertations or papers that come out, I just love having people send them to the SSA so we can include them with our like monthly newsletters. And that reaches a sangat of over 200 people. And then they themselves can then share it. So it's not about like spending a lot of time. It's just about being efficient of where you share and send things to. I hope I made sense. But yeah, that was my point.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's like how Virji was saying earlier. Like if we have the network of people who have the skills and stuff, we could just easily assign them with a task. And how you mentioned that it's not about spending time on social media, it's like using it effectively. For a lot of people, social media does become that consumption thing, because as another VHG mentioned was the dopamine release. You get addicted to it. So I think like to avoid that, it is like if you just set these limitations for yourself and you start like delegating the tasks to other people, you can limit the amount of stress that social media may bring into your life.
All right. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we wrap this up? All right, cool. So thank you so much, Eakamjit Singh, for coming on to this event. We really appreciate it. Everyone, make sure you follow Brampton Grand so that when he's back to attack with helping out the Puntin different ways and stuff, creating new projects and stuff, that we can keep up to date with him. Baji, once you're back, let us know. We can promote you on the Sikh Reddit. And if you have any cool Panthik initiatives that you need to get us involved with, let us know. You know, the whole Sangat is here. If there's any announcements you want to make on any future initiatives, or if you need people to help you with Seva, making some videos, or with other Panthik stuff, you know, we have the whole Sangat here right now. You can just ask them right now.
Seva or nothing, no Seva or anything right now. But again, I just want to say thank you for having me here. I know I just I spent most of this time just ranting and just going off the page, but like the few the moments that we had of Vichar and like yeah, and when we did have like good discussions and with people chiming in and everything, I think a lot of us learned a lot of new ideas. We can try to build upon the stuff that was discussed today, and hopefully next time we have a discussion like this, we can start talking about action and start talking about what are some steps that we can do. And again, just thank you for having me on here.
All right, thank you so much. Can we please get a Jakara? Does anyone want to do a Jakara? Upkar Singh, you want to do it?
Bole Sonehan.
Sat Sri Akal.
ठीक है चलो जी वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह